Oh, hi. So glad you could show up this week. I figured I would listen to a little bit of music while I waited. Speaking of music, there's this rumor going around that it's Music Week on Outlaws of Style, so I'm going to tell you about my experiences and my style if I was in a band and a few bands that I really enjoy, so stay tuned. So I was recording this Christmas-inspired tutorial, and I decided since I wanted to put together a sort of visual style for what I would wear if I was in a band, that this would work. It doesn't match what I'm wearing, the corset that I'm wearing, but my other corsets were way too big, and I figured it really doesn't matter. You guys are going to see it for a second, and then it's not going to matter. And plus this one's really pretty, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you that real quick. So I think what you saw is pretty much how my style is anyway. I have to have crazy makeup and crazy hair, and I would probably change up the outfits all the time. I would probably go a lot more out than I did for this. It's really late. I'm so tired. I'm actually sick, and I want to make sure I got this done. I don't know what time it is. I'm gonna actually check right now. It is 3:25 a.m., but I haven't been sleeping good, and like I said, I'm sick. So for some reason the lighting just changed, but we're gonna work with it, aren't we? I think if I had a band, it would pretty much just be a mix of everything together. But lots and lots of guitar, like really grungy, crunchy, loud, growling guitar. I'm probably at least 5, and then just a mix of everything else as I see fit. And I actually used to write songs. I used to sing a lot too, and I would compare my voice when I was actually singing to, there's this band in the 80s called Berlin, and they sang the Metro, and actually System of a Down made the song. It was really good, and I'm a huge fan of System of a Down. I was also in, I played keyboard for my ex-boyfriend's little industrial band, and then we started a project together, and I did the singing, I did the writing and the singing, and he did all the music stuff. He had a big studio and everything. Since I've only played one show, I played keyboard for his industrial project called Lifelike. So let's talk about concerts. The first concert I went to, I'm trying to remember how old I was like 13 or 14, and my mom, her boyfriend took my brother and I to go see the Offspring after their second album just came out, and so we listened to the album the whole way there, and what do you know, we are in the mosh pit, where we belong, and my mom actually stood in front of me so she can push people, just so she can protect her kids, but it was really fun, it was funny. There was a huge mosh pit, but that was my first experience at a concert mosh pit, and it was really great. So I believe this was my second concert, and it was around that time, I think. And again, my mom and her boyfriend took my brother and I to go see Metallica, and it was when they were doing some kind of thing with the orchestra. They just played all their music with the orchestra, and they actually had the show in a hockey rink, so they were at the bottom where the ice would be, and they just set up the stage there, so we're in the seats looking down at them, and there's just lights and fire and orchestra, and just, that was really neat. And our family is quite fond of Metallica. My mom would be blasting it while she was driving my brother and I to grade school. So if any of you are Metallica fans and you haven't picked up their album, it's called Garage Inc. and it's just, I think it's 2 CDs, and it's all the covers they used to play before they were big, when they would practice, and they were just in this tiny garage just doing all these cover songs. And so they did an album of all the covers that they would do to practice, and it's really cool. And if you're a Metallica fan, definitely pick it up. Garage Inc. About 5 years ago, when I was maybe 23 or 24, I went and saw the Birthday Massacre. This was with the guy I was seeing at the time and some friends. Birthday Massacre, great show. Just very high energy. Their clothing was so fun. Their hair was big and fun. They all had makeup. The only girl is a singer, and then there's like 4 or 5 other guys, and just like all made up, and just it was a lot of fun. I really loved her energy and her outfit. She's so cute. So a few years ago, when I was either 25 or 26, my mom gives me a call and says she has 2 tickets for Mindless Indulgence, and that her and her boyfriend can't go, and do I want the tickets? Do I want the tickets? Yeah, I wanted the tickets. So I went with my friend Rob, and of course Jimmy Urine was spitting on people and encouraging people in the upper area to spit on everyone, and drinking suspicious substances, and being completely crazy. And it was so fun. So fun. It was one of the best shows, and it was just packed. I was on the upper level, and I'm so glad because the people in front of the stage were covered in who knows what Jimmy was just throwing out there at people. But it was really, really fun. So beginning of 2010, I saw Skinny Puppy with a couple of friends, and it was a great show, except for that I was wearing a new pair of boots, and they had very high heels, and I have very horrendous back, and it killed me. I just was so ready to go. I went outside and actually just took off my shoes, and that sucked. So now I'm just going to talk about bands and just different albums that I like and recommend, just random, whatever comes out of my mouth kind of thing. So I am a huge, huge fan of Alice in Chains, their old stuff before Lane Staley died. It's so sad. They came out with a new album recently without Lane, and they have a new singer. I'm trying to remember his name, but I'm just not going to worry about it. But if you haven't heard old Alice in Chains, check out the albums Jar of Flies, Facelift, and Dirt. Those 3 are the best, and such good rock music. Just Lane Staley's voice is just so unique and amazing. You have to check it out if you haven't. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the occasional songs. I mean, if you listen to any alternative stations, and anything that they're going to play from the 90s, they're going to play some old Alice in Chains, but definitely their stuff is worth checking out, because a lot of the songs I listened to didn't get radio play, which is with a lot of bands that I like. Of course, I like the songs that get radio play, but I also want to experience the things that I may not be hearing, so I have a lot of favorites from bands, a lot of favorite songs from bands that you wouldn't necessarily hear unless you had the CD. So the Black Crowes, Shake Your Money Maker, great album. I'm a huge Korn fan. Again, their old stuff. I think Follow the Leader would be my favorite album from them. If you are a Korn fan, check out their Greatest Hits album, Volume 1. It has, I made a list because if you're a Korn fan, you're going to know these songs, and you can get them all on one Greatest Hits album. So they did a remake of Word Up and Another Brick on the Wall, and those 2 are on there. And then they have Y'all Want a Single, Right Now, Here to Stay, Make Me Bad, Falling Away From Me, Twist, Adidas, Clown, Chutes and Ladders, Blind, and a Dante Ross mix of Freak on a Leash. So check it out. It's a really, really good greatest hits album. Okay, so I'm also a huge fan of Stone Temple Pilots, their old stuff as well, which would be the Core album and the Purple album. Another band that I really, really like, and I just think everybody should like. I really love the artistic visuals and his videos and just his music. And I forgot, I have seen Marilyn Manson, and it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it actually was not a good show. He didn't really put on a show, and that's what you come to expect from Marilyn Manson. I think he was just getting tired, and he wasn't coming out with new stuff around then, and you weren't really hearing stuff about him anymore. But anyways, Antichrist, Superstar, Mechanical Animals, and Portrait of an American Family, best albums to me. So then we have 9 Inch Nails. Like a lot of these things that I've mentioned so far is because my mom had all these CDs. So I didn't have to buy any because I listened to the same things she did. So 9 Inch Nails was one that was a favorite of hers and that I really loved as well. So my favorite albums would be Broken, The Downward Spiral, The Fragile, Pretty Hate Machine, and With Teeth eventually grew on me. And he has a new project out now. I believe it's with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's doing some of the vocals. How to Destroy Angels is what it's called. I'm a huge Nirvana fan, and my favorite albums would have to be In Utero and Nevermind. I love Red Hot Chili Peppers. Another favorite, my favorite albums being One Hot Minute, Mother's Milk, Californication. So like I mentioned earlier, a huge System of a Down fan. Alice in Chains and System of a Down are like the, out of all the bands, I have probably like 40 favorite songs from each of those, from Alice in Chains and System of a Down. I like every single album from System of a Down, and that's Hypnotize, Mesmerize, Steal This Album, there's a self-titled one, and Toxicity, and it's just amazing. And I also really like it because he incorporates a lot of elements. There's some like poppy stuff, and then there's like really like more hardcore, but then like the hardcore stuff will be like singing about something really ridiculous. He's just really, really fun, but he also has some really great messages in a lot of his songs. Okay, so moving on a little bit more away from 90s rock. Mindless Self-Indulgence, as I said. So we have Alienating Our Audience, Frankenstein Girls Will Seem Strangely Sexy, and Tight, and You Rebel to Anything. Those are my favorite albums. And 80s, I actually have a list for the 80s because there's a few. The B-52s, Billy Idol, The Church, The Cult, The Cure, Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, Eurythmics, The Fix, Foreigner, and The Smiths. So that's a whole bunch of 80s stuff that I like. And then just a couple random: LCD Sound System, Rabbit in the Moon, VHS or Beta. It is now Friday, and I hope you all have a great weekend. I believe next week's topic is about our hair evolution, all the styles and colors and cuts that we have had over the years, and I definitely look forward to that one. So I will see you next week on Outlaws of Style.